We're facing a dangerous economic outlook. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article from news.com.au about a warning from our Treasurer. Treasurer warns of dangerous outlook for Australia amid fears of a global recession. So, the Treasurer has delivered a grim warning that rampant inflation, falling real wages, heralds a period of extreme global economic uncertainty. Isn't that awesome news, guys? Isn't that awesome news? Well, I mean, it's certainly, it's a fear. It's something to be concerned about, but you don't want to let media headlines and even these type of calls worry you too much. You've got to be stoic in the face of these things. You know, people in the past have overcome much greater economic challenges, and we've been a little spoilt in Australia. Our last recession just recently, it wasn't quite a recession, was it? Treasurer Jim Chalmers has delivered a grim warning that rampant inflation, falling real wages, heralds a period of extreme global economic uncertainty. The issue is if we have just inflation going out of control. And the RBA tries to mitigate it by increasing the cash rate. If that actually will mitigate it is a completely separate point. But if they'll try to, then depending on how high it gets, it will impact some people. Yeah, it will. A lot of Aussies are going to be fine. A lot of people have buffers, or they bought so long ago, their mortgages aren't that insane. The real worry are going to be the people who bought recently, who probably overcommitted, some of them may have, or the impact it's going to have on the rental market. Because, I don't think landlords are going to absorb all of that costs. Speaking after the release of the OECD's latest economic forecast, he's warned that Australia is not spared from this darker and more dangerous global outlook amid fears of a global recession. Well, here's the thing. We could get lucky again. There could be increased traditional economic stimulus in China and increased demand for natural resources, which could help us. Remember, we're just a colony on the edge of the world, guys. The OECD report shows the global economy is treading perilous terrain, with slowing global growth, rampant inflation, falling real wages, and extreme uncertainty. These challenges are intensifying, not dissipating, and Australia is not spared from this darker and more dangerous global outlook. Why is he framing this? Does he want to prepare people? I wonder why. Despite significant economic and budget challenges here at home, Australians should be optimistic about the long-term future of our economy and our country. So I'm reading this, I'm thinking, what is he paving the way for? What is he going to put out there in the budget? Is it going to be massive debts because they're giving everyone free childcare and handing out everything? Or are they not going to be able to fulfill all the promises they made because they don't want to rack up the insane debts? The OECD Interim Economic Outlook warns that taken together, the shocks could reduce growth in the European economies by over 1.25% in 2023, relative to baseline and rising inflation. This would push many countries into a full-year recession in 2023, it states. Real household disposable incomes will be hit further, reflecting the drag exerted by higher prices and the decline in hours worked, and business investment would also be severely affected. Outside Europe, the impact of the shocks would be smaller, but there would still be adverse impacts from higher inflation on real wages. Dr. Chalmers said the October budget was designed to build resilience by delivering responsible cost of living relief, making vital investments, and beginning the hard yards of budget repair. What I would love to see is maintaining the reduced fuel excise. Well, I'd love to see the fuel excise entirely removed. I guess, the Greens wouldn't allow it, because then they couldn't make up these bullshit stories that all the mining companies are getting subsidies because they don't pay the fuel excise because their vehicles aren't using the roads. So that you got to, there's political purposes behind all of this. You're by reducing a tax on the rest of us, you're reducing a potential for propaganda. Or am I just getting too cynical now? That could be it too, everyone. I am getting older. The OECD highlights the benefits of governments increasing their support for childcare, he said. Of course it does. See, here's the thing. Do you want to live in a society where it's expected that the state will take care of your children, or a society where parents should take care of them themselves? The sad thing is now, it's normal. It's expected that you put your kids into childcare, that having one partner, a stay-at-home wife, is a luxury. And a lot of the people we know that do it have to sacrifice a lot or are quite wealthy. It used to be something a normal family could do. You could have the wife at home, raising the family, taking care of the kids. Now, these days, it doesn't necessarily have to be the wife. It can be the father as well. You know, either or, each to their own. But for most people, you can't afford it. So they beg for childcare. They beg for more government subsidies and interventions in this sector. I remember when we were looking at a childcare centre once, and just the propaganda everywhere. Wasn't for me. The funny thing was even kindergarten. Oh, they're so bloody woke. This is years ago. It's probably gotten worse now. The biggest new investment in our budget in October will be cheaper childcare. So that's it. That's what the government are doing, cheaper childcare. A game-changing investment which delivers cost of living relief with an economic dividend. Yeah, does it really? I mean, there's some really sad stories of very young children having to go into childcare and then suffering separation anxiety. This isn't what I would rather. We looked at flexible workplace environments or situations where you'd have mothers with their kids. Something innovative. What I would really like is that we'd have a society that values being a parent. But, you know, there it is. They want to keep them. This is the trick of feminism. Get all the women out there working. Don't get the state raising your kids. So the government is influencing them. And you get to work in a shitty, meaningless job. The OECD's latest report notes that the global economy has been hit by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The war has pushed up energy and food prices substantially, aggravating inflationary pressures at a time when the cost of living was already rising rapidly around the world. Inflation has become broad-based in many economies. Tighter monetary policy and easing supply bottlenecks should moderate inflation pressures next year, but elevated energy prices and higher labour costs are likely to slow the pace of decline. Further interest rate increases are needed in most major economies to anchor inflation expectations and ensure that inflation pressures are reduced durably. Let's see if that actually happens, guys. The OECD suggests that support is needed to help cushion the impact of high energy costs on households and companies. Well, maybe we shouldn't be going down this crazy path. Okay, there's a whole lot of embodied energy here. It's a very inefficient way to produce power. However, this should be temporary, concentrated on the most vulnerable, preserve incentives to reduce energy consumption, and be withdrawn as energy price pressures wane. Energy prices have risen sharply, particularly for natural gas, the report states. Coal prices are also near record levels, as electricity generators and some industrial sectors substitute from gas to coal and oil. These phenomena have been most acute in Europe, but have affected prices in other regions as well, especially Asia. The OECD also warned that the fallout from the war remains a threat to global food security, particularly if combined with future extreme weather events resulting from climate change. Here's the issue. You look at the actual charts, everyone. It's not getting worse. There are no worse extreme weather events. Less people are dying due to the climate now than ever before in human history. The issue with food is logistical. That's what it is. An example, in many African nations, you have their local industries decimated because low-cost product is dumped on them from the Western world. In Britain, there'll be a preference for chicken breasts, so the rest of the carcass is dumped on African nations, destroying their local productive capacity. causing logistical issues. Then if you've got fuel going up, you've got transportation costs going up, what's that going to do to countries that have to import food because their local industries can't compete? So that's what I'd worry a bit about more, honestly. That's going to have a real impact. The automatic fiscal stabilizers provide some help in moderating the impact of the shock, but additional discretionary measures would be needed to fully cushion household incomes, it states. Oh, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be more of the same, isn't it? Well, let's have a talk about this. Well, guys, I try and have an optimistic and stoic approach to these type of things. I mean, ready yourself for the worst, but hope for the best. And perhaps Australia may just luck out again. Perhaps they may luck out again. I mean, we got Labor. Last time we had the GFC, they got lucky then too. Maybe they'll do it again. What do you reckon? Hey, could work. We'll have to see, everyone. Our Premier here in Queensland announced we're going to have the biggest wind farm in the entire country. That's just going to be a complete and utter disaster. Just wait and see. Wait and see. Awesome, just what we need. We got a state with abundant coal. We could have the cheapest power in the world. Awesome. As always, check out my other channels, HeiseBim and HeiseSays International, for other content I discuss. And if you want to support the channel, you can financially on YouTube or Patreon, using our referral links, Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve or AussieBroadband, buying our pocket squares, or calling us if you need an architect. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. And I'll see you in the next episode of HeiseSays.